the last couple of weeks, West Ham have been linked to various different strikers, but one thing that's been consistent within the reporting of these transfer rumours was that Max Kilman was priority, and as soon as that deal's done, then West Ham would turn their attention to the striker. And right enough, Max Kilman arrived and the reports remained the same, which was strikers now priority. Lopetegui and Steidten were going to be going over their shortlist and deciding which player was going to be their number one target, and they were going to make a move. Well, earlier on today, ExWHUEmployees stated that that target was Jhon Duran of Aston Villa. This was backed up very quickly by Domesh of Sky Sports, and Fabrizio Romano has gone one step further this afternoon, stating West Ham have already submitted more than one bid for Jhon Duran to Aston Villa. Understand last proposal currently worth around 35 million plus 10% sell-on clause. Negotiations underway, personal terms already agreed with Duran. So that's the latest from Fabrizio Romano, that we have made, well, more than one bid for Duran, but the latest one, 35 million, personal terms already agreed. So today we're going to discuss the player as well as the potential transfer. Before we get into it, if you're new to Hammer's Chat, please do subscribe. Approximately 1/3 of you watching right now have yet to subscribe to the channel, so let's change that figure today if we don't mind. It's free and takes a few seconds. Also, while you're down there, please do drop a like on the video as well by clicking thumbs up. Both things help out the video, help out the channel, make me very happy. As with signing Duran, there is a lot of risk attached to it. Now, I covered the player last week, and my opinion on the player hasn't changed because nothing has happened. But now I can form an opinion on the transfer itself, because my biggest concern last week was the value of Duran. He was reportedly 50 million when Chelsea were trying to sign him, and to be fair, he was trying to sign for Chelsea as well. But let's deal with the positives of the player before we deal with the negatives, and then we'll discuss the transfer. I think there's an abundance of potential attached to him. I think he's got ability today. Now, we've seen it in spells. He hasn't started many games for Aston Villa. That is not an issue. I'm not concerned by that, because he was playing second fiddle to Ollie Watkins, who, in my opinion, was the best striker in the Premier League last season. He wasn't playing back up and not getting in the team ahead of Ollie McBurney or Dominic Calvert-Lewin or anyone like that. It was Ollie Watkins. So his lack of game time at 20 years old does not concern me one bit. However, when I did see him play for Aston Villa, which I feel was quite a lot, I was impressed by what I seen. Whenever he was due to come on, when I was watching it, I felt this guy can come on and make a difference. And in some games, he did. He got a handful of goals last season for Aston Villa. I think it was 5 goals in Premier League, a couple of goals in European football as well. There's more than enough evidence of ability there. I like the way he strikes the ball. I like his movement. I think he's quite strong. He's very physical. He's a goal scorer. I think he will become a goal scorer. But I guess what you're buying with Duran, as well as a few negatives, is the potential. And when you watch him, you do feel that this kid, because he's 20 years old, could go on and become a fantastic striker in the Premier League. And I still stand by that. I still think he could go on and achieve that. And that's what we're looking for. That's what West Ham are apparently looking for this summer in a striker. It's not necessarily a finished article. It's somebody that can improve. And I would assume, while they haven't stated this, cash in, make a bit of money on him, just like Aston Villa are a way to do so already. So in terms of the player, I think he'd be a really good signing for us. However, it comes with a lot of risk. Last week I said there's 3 things that concern me about Duran. Those 3 things are still valid, although one has been decreased quite dramatically. That was the price tag. We'll discuss that. The other 2, one was his hold-up play. When I've seen him play for Aston Villa, often as a lone striker, I feel like he could have done a better job at holding the ball up. Not quite as good as Ollie Watkins at running the channels and linking the attacking midfield together. I'm not too concerned, because that part of his game can be developed. He's 20 years old. I don't expect him to be the finished article. So if when I'm watching him, I've got one big concern with his playing aspect of the game, I'm okay with that, because he's physically ready for the Premier League, which isn't something you can say for many 20-year-olds, including some who are in West Ham's under-21s that we hope make it, but they're not ready physically for the Premier League at the minute. Duran definitely is. So his hold-up play is a training thing rather than an inability because he's just too small. He's not. He's definitely got the physical aspect to it. He just needs coached. And I'm hoping Lopetegui can give him that coaching. The concern there is that he's had a bloody good coach while at Aston Villa. It's not that like Emery doesn't improve players. Emery has improved majority of players at Villa Park, and the ones that haven't are the ones that he doesn't really want there, which would indicate it's an attitude thing rather than a coaching thing from Villa Park. So his hold-up play is one concern. And then the third thing is his attitude. That concerns me quite a bit. Because while I feel like maybe we can get hold of that element, that hold-up play, we can maybe sort that, the attitude's down to him. He needs to sort that himself. I don't like the way he's been twerking for Chelsea for months. Before the season finished, as soon as there was a little bit of interest from Chelsea, and rumoured interest, that was it. He was liking everything on social media. He made it very clear he wants to go to Stamford Bridge. He wants out of Aston Villa. Why is that? Is it because he doesn't like playing second fiddle to Ollie Watkins? Well, that's a belief. Part of the belief is that that's the reason he wanted to leave, because he wants to be the main man. That's fine. That ambition, that personal ambition, that belief in yourself, and I guess to some extent arrogance. And Lopetegui said he wants personality in players. This guy's got some. Right? He's coming with an abundance of personality, so deal with that one. But I just think when you're 20 years old and it's Ollie Watkins in front of you, I think you've got to be realistic and accept that you ain't getting into Villa starting 11 ahead of Ollie Watkins. This, like I said, this is not a Premier League striker that isn't scoring goals or is underperforming. This is the main guy in the league last season. I don't think you can get disgruntled not playing ahead of Watkins. Personally, I don't think you can. He wanted his move to Chelsea. He didn't get it because of the price tag of around 50 million. Maybe Chelsea will come in for him once again and try and get him, since we're now making, or seemingly making progress to 35 million. The fact that he's already agreed personal terms now, usually I'm not too bothered, because I say, well, that happens for all transfer deals these days. The club, via agents, will discuss with other agents and find out if there's interest in the player joining the club, or they won't even bother trying to get him. It's not very often you hear these days of a club bidding for a player and the player rejecting the move. It doesn't happen too often because everything's done already. The personal term aspect of it has already been sounded out. It's possibly a bit of a concern that he's already agreed personal terms with us, because it just shows that he wants to leave. We're not the first club that's agreed personal terms with Duran this summer and not had a bid accepted by Aston Villa. We're not the first club, and that's got to be an indication of something. So I have concerns regarding his attitude. Jared Bowen at the minute, I don't think Bowen's going anywhere. I've got zero concerns about Jared Bowen leaving West Ham. If we were to sign Duran, I'd almost have concerns of him leaving West Ham after a week at the club. I just think this guy ain't going to be here for too long. Let me just turn the light on. Apologies, didn't realise it was getting dull. Anyway, I'm lit up now. So I'd have concerns over Duran staying at West Ham, and I think Aston Villa perhaps do as well. Hence a sell-on clause on there. It's wise to put that in, because A, he probably will leave, and B, he may go on and become a superstar. And I've seen people compare him to Balotelli, not necessarily in terms of style or profile, just in terms of has an incredible amount of talent, but the attitude is a bit of a concern and may prevent him fulfilling that potential. So that's my concerns over the player himself. I don't think his agent helps things in this matter either. I will say that. I don't think he's got the best representation. But in terms of the transfer deal, because this eradicates my fear of lack of value. 50 million is far too much. 35 million, it's chunky. It's very chunky. I'd imagine West Ham fans will be happy with this to some extent because of the player we're buying, the potential he's got. I'd imagine Villa fans, guessing, will be delighted with this because they're getting 35 million for a player that they want rid of. You know, John McGinn said, I can't remember the exact quote, but John McGinn basically said he's terrible to work with, and that is Aston Villa's captain saying he's not good. He's a bit of a handful. He's not easy to work with. I can't remember what he said exactly, but he implied he's not easy to get along with. Worrying. There's alarm bells here. At 35 million, we have to get this right. And because of what we've seen with Duran already publicly, is he's not going to be happy to come in and play second fiddle to Michail Antonio. So we are going to sign him I think he's going to be expected to come in and be the main man at West Ham. But you know what? If we're going to sign a striker for 35 million, I expect him to come in and be the main man as well, regardless of who it is, because we can't afford to be spending 35 million on a striker and sitting him on the bench. We need whoever we sign for that striker role, we need him to come in and hit the ground running. And Antonio's got a lot to offer next season. I don't want to sell Michail Antonio, but whoever we sign has to ideally knock him out the starting 11. I'm not sure Duran is at that level. Yeah, I think they're probably on par. The difference is one's sort of at one end of his career and the other one's at the other. And I think Duran will go on to become a better player than Michail Antonio. But in terms of what he will demand from West Ham, and I think that will be a starting spot in the 11. When I say demand, I don't mean because of his performances on the pitch. I mean through what he might say or what he might do off the pitch. Put me in 11 or we've got a problem on our hands. And this will be a difficult one. This will be... I don't know enough about Lopetegui's man management skills. I don't know enough about that. I think international football is maybe a good indicator of it, because you can't buy players, you have to work with what you're given. And he did fantastically well with Spain prior to the thing that happened with Real Madrid. But in terms of results and performances, now obviously it's a bit different because he's working with Spain. It's not a country with poor players. He had an abundance of talent there. But I imagine international football is more about man management than anything else. So I'm intrigued as to see how Lopetegui will handle Duran if we sign him, because he's going to need to. And if you do handle him correctly, if Duran makes the right move and gets the right person in charge of him, I think there could be a fantastic footballer here. I really do believe that he could go on and become a superb player. And from what I've seen and heard of Aston Villa fans, they think that too. They think there is a superb footballer waiting to be unearthed. But they just don't want to do it at their club because, well, it's going well. It's going well at Villa. Emery's there. Everything's going really good for them. They've got Champions League football. They don't want someone with a bad attitude or a questionable attitude and commitment to the club. They don't require him. They're too good for that. Are we too good for that? Without European football, I'd maybe say not yet. But as soon as you get European football, you think, well, could we do without this? We like a problematic player at West Ham, though. Some of our favourite cult heroes at the club, with Di Canio, recently Marko Natovic, they've come with off-field issues. Lucas Paqueta's currently got an off-field issue. A little different, I appreciate that. But the other two were sort of committal queries, if you like, and I think we do like it, but you've got to perform. And at 35 million, it's risky business. 35 million is chunky. I'm on the side, to summarise, I appreciate I'm doing a bad job of this, to summarise it, good player, could become a fantastic player. Attitude, worrying, very worrying. That may prevent him becoming a fantastic player. But with the right manager, the right person in charge of him, I think they could turn him into a fantastic one. Now that has to come from Duran as well. It's not a one-way thing here. You need it back from the player. But he's definitely got ability. At 35 million though, Lopetegui is going to live and die by the sword of Max Kilman this season. If Kilman turns out to be fantastic, we're all going to turn around and say, well done, you've smashed that. 40 million on your centre-back and he's made a huge difference. Well done, Gaffer. If we were to sign Duran and it was a Steidten pick, we don't know that yet, but if it was a Steidten pick and it didn't work out and he causes problems, that's where you turn around to Steidten and say, well, you've got that one wrong, haven't you? Because you spent 35 million and this guy's come in and just annoyed people, really. His attitude was there. And this is the thing. This isn't an unknown problem. There's no... If Duran comes in and that attitude aspect of him causes issues, we can't turn around and go, oh, that's a surprise. There's no surprise. It's well documented at Aston Villa, the problems he brings. But like I said, if you can sort that, you've got a player on your hands. If you want a player for next season to be a success, I think Ivan Toney is that player. But we know what happens. There's no resale value on Ivan Toney in that. And if what we're trying to do is bring in players, make them better and sell them for profit, And I appreciate not everybody likes that. I say, well, hang on, we want to keep the best players. But Tim Steidtens' job, part of it, is to make money, to sell players and make money. Maybe he's identified Duran as somebody that he feels he could double his money on pretty quickly, because if he does start performing in the Premier League, he very will quickly become worth more than 50 million. Hence why there's a 10% clause in there. And I appreciate that's our bid, but bear in mind it's not our first bid according to Romano. I'd imagine it's in there because Aston Villa the first time I said, no, we want something in there so we can benefit if he turns good. Because maybe Aston Villa think he'll turn good as well. I think, like I said, the fans, I feel, think he is a good player, could become a superstar if he sorts his attitude out. Anyway, I'm intrigued to know what you guys think, so get involved in the comments below. West Ham have apparently made a 35 million plus 10% selling clause bid to Aston Villa for Jhon Duran. He's already agreed personal terms, but like I said, agreed personal terms with Chelsea, as well as liked everything on social media for about 6 months. Maybe take that one with a pinch of salt. But get involved. If you've enjoyed this video, please do drop a like on it. It does actually genuinely help the channel out. We're not just saying that. Subscribe if you're new around here, and I'll catch you tomorrow.